Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. Early on in our talk, you were discussing a lot about your culture, and you did mention that your family is a part of your program. You know, your wife and your daughter, you said? Your
Yes, sir.
daughter is around and a part of, which is great. Parents are there too. I think balancing coaching and family life is difficult at any level. And I can't imagine a guy like you said, it's year round. You don't take breaks. How do you balance that coaching with your family life?
I think we all have mentors. And so, these are questions that I've asked throughout the time with certain mentors that I've had. And then obviously I get to witness kind of how they do their balance, right? And I've been blessed to work with some really, really high level people who operate at the highest level of efficiency. Obviously the president of our college, Michael Sorrell, he's got speaking engagements. He's the president of our college. Uh, he's traveling around the world. He's raising money. And then I see him in the gym with his son all the time. That's crazy. And then, I was at Drive Nation for 5 years, and seeing Jermaine O'Neal, a former NBA player.
He does a lot. He does a lot, man.
He owns the agency. He's got the high school. He's got Drive Nation. Other business ventures as well, and being able to see the capacity that they have, walking into an airport and everybody wants to shake his hand, and everybody wants to take a picture. And so that's really what I learned, and I've worked with a lot of great guys, Nick Van Exel, Hollis Price, Bill Peterson, Eduardo Nájera. Like, I've worked with some high level people, and being able to see how they turn it on when it needs to be turned on, and then they can quickly turn it back off and go back to just being them. I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned in my time with these high level, high performing human beings. And so, in the morning, that's my time with my girls, with my wife, with my daughter. Couple of days a week, my wife goes in a little bit later, so we get time to like hang out and have breakfast, or sometimes she'll go and she'll work out in the morning to kind of get it over with. That's my time to be dad. It's daddy-daughter time. If my wife goes to work out, I wake up with her, change her, feed her, hang out before my mother-in-law comes over to take care of the baby. And that's, I'm not answering phone calls unless it's something important. I'm spending time. I'm being present in the moment. I'm enjoying it. I've got food all over the place, and, half the time I don't know what I'm doing anyway, but, that time is special and it's important. And then the second I walk out the door and I lock the door, I'm coach. I've got, and I drive 45 minutes from Fort Worth to Paul Quinn.
Wow.
So I use every second of that car ride. I'm calling parents. I'm recruiting. I'm talking to coaches. I'm scheduling. Coaches are calling me about our players. I'm trying to get a players recruitment on the AAU side picked up. So I got to make some calls to kind of shake the trees for them. So I got to utilize that time, and I've got to be able to turn it on the second I walk out the door, because I've already missed out on an hour and a half worth of work. Right. So let's make up for it in other ways. And then the second I walk back in the door at home, I've got to be able to shut it down. I've got to get those calls made on the way back home so that I can be dad again. And I think that's one of the things that I've really tried to work on in order to get that balance. I have to be able to turn it on, and I have to be able to turn it off. And the more balance that you have in your life, the easier you can do that. When my wife knows I got to take this call, she's like, "Hey, give me the baby. I got you." Cool. In the morning, she knows I'm not answering a call unless it's a must-have phone call. Otherwise, I'll call them on the way back. Oh, okay. But the ability to be able to do that, one, is because of my mentors. And because of the questions and the relationships that I've had that I've built, and then watching those guys do it actively on a daily basis with a high bandwidth,
Yeah.
and then figuring out that balance for myself, and then just kind of putting it into play.
Man, I love that. I love the systems that you have in place to kind of help. And you're right on the money. I mean, it's hard to be on all the time and everything. And so really choosing those moments and but making sure that your family doesn't suffer or that time is special. Let me ask you this though. So there is you turning it off and on with your phone and with maybe doing some things on a computer. But my question maybe is like, especially in season, you're at home. How do you turn it off up here? Have you figured out how yet to where you're present with your family and you're there, but are you thinking about the game tomorrow or the game that you just had or the conversation you had that? Because I think I struggle with I'm with my family, but sad to say that in my head, I might be still still in the game, still watching film in my head. How do you deal with that?
I think we all have that, right? I think if you're a good coach, you have that. You're always kind of on your toes. And so I don't think it'll ever 100% completely go away, right? And it's funny because I was just talking to my wife about this. I don't have any like hobbies. You know what I mean? Like none. I'm coaching basketball or I'm with my family, and that's it. I don't fish, I don't hunt, I don't boys trips, I don't golf, I don't do any of that because in my head it takes away from the extra time that I have to spend with my family, and that time to me is important. Uh, and I remember when I was in junior college, two quick little
Yeah.
tips about this. When I was in junior college, I worked at Bossier Parish Community College with a guy named Chris Lovell, and he's a former youth pastor. He's a head coach at Prestonwood Baptist Church.
He's the
We
reason I have this job, man. It's kind of funny, the small world. He was the head coach at Faith the year before I
Yeah,
got here. When he was going to go to Prestonwood, him and Randy Feemster both knew me and helped connect me to this place. So yeah, Coach Level's awesome. Yeah.
yeah, that's my guy. We actually share the same birthday twins. I always make fun of him for that, but so he used to say something all the time, and he's like, "Don't waste to our guys when they were acting up. Don't waste my time away from my family." He used to say that all the time, and at the time I was like, "Bro, like we're all here working." You know what I mean? Like, but now that I have a family, I'm like, he's right. Like this time we have, and that's why I'm so big on efficiency. I don't want to practice 4 hours because I'm so intense in practice. Like my energy, like I want to be able, like let's knock this out. And then the other thing, when I was with Drive, Jermaine used to tell me, he's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't have kids. He's like, you have no idea. And I was offended by it. And I was like, in your head, you're like, this guy thinks he knows everything, and whatever. I'm the best version I can be, and I love these kids. But he was right. And
Mm.
like the third day I had a baby, I called him and I was like, bro, you're right. I get it now. Like it's crazy. It didn't take a month or a year. It took 3 days.
Mm.
And so I think, that for me is big. Being able to separate those things, being able to manage those things. I mean, it's just big. And so that way, to get back to it, that way, when I'm at home, I know that I've grinded. I know that I've put the work in. We did the scout, we went over everything in practice. Our guys are prepared. Now it's time to go home and be dad, and I'm okay with that.
Mm.
We're never gonna just 100% not think about it. I'll put my daughter down. I'll spend time with my wife. She goes to bed early. I'm more of a night owl. So then, if I do have something else that I need to do, I can kind of knock it out before I go to bed.
Coach, that's great. And I appreciate you sharing that. And I think a little bit of, I guess, comforting is the word I'm thinking about, but it maybe just lets me off the hook a little bit, where you say, we do our very, very best, but sometimes it's going to be hard to turn it 100%. Like, I don't want to feel guilty because we care so much. about what we're doing. We care about these players. We love the game. And I think also too, it's up to us, or maybe those younger coaches out there that aren't married yet, like, find the one that is going to understand the mission, the calling that we have, and how important this is. And that even though she's going to be first and our kids are going to be first, man, it's not like it's a far second, like these kids and everything we're doing with this job, it's important too. But I appreciate you sharing, and I think some really good ideas for ways to attempt to have the balance that you're talking about.
Yeah, and you know what? One of the things that I actually like too, because my guys, and obviously it's a little bit different for you because you're at the high school level, right? And I don't do it as much with my AAU guys, but I like to text my guys. So especially like the night before the game, like, and it's not about the specific game, but I like to text my guys a little bit later before I go to bed and just kind of, check on them. Hey man, how's, mom? Or hey, how's your girl? Or hey, just communicating. I would rather make a phone call and be like, hey, what's up? How's it going? But that's not how they communicate.
That's right. Yeah.
From a couple text messages, not about the game, but it's the day before the game, because I know my assistants are tired of hearing from me about it because we've been going at it for the last 4 or 5 days. So kind of giving them a break, and then just kind of touching base with my players about other things. I think that really helps me too. So yeah, I want to be present, and I am present with my family, and we're hanging out. Usually the night before a game, we go to dinner. We go out to dinner just to kind of get out of the house, so I'm not stir crazy. And then once we put the baby down and spend our time together, I'll text my guys about, non-basketball stuff. I think that's really what works for me, Coach.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.